Hello, and I am very excited to welcome you to the second episode in my ongoing series talking about every single campaign in Dimension 20 on Dropout. In this episode, we are going to cover the Unsleeping City, the second main campaign following Fantasy High that has the Intrepid heroes. Obviously, there's the side quest Escape from Bloodkeep before this, but I decided that I love the Intrepid heroes so much that I'm just going to keep watching the main campaigns until I run out of them, and then I'm going to check out the side quests. Sneak peek, I'm already quite a bit ways through A Crown of Candy, and it's fucking amazing, so I'm going to talk about that after this one. But I want to jump right into it and talk about the Unsleeping City, the wildly different campaign than the original Fantasy High, but also much darker in its tone, deeper in the message it's trying to get across, and in some parts, just plain old depressing. Now, in this season of Dimension 20, the Unsleeping City, we are set in kind of a magical version of New York City that is hidden behind the real New York City that can only be seen by archetypes and magical folk alike. It is a much more modern setting with different characters that you would normally find in Dungeons and Dragons, like paladins, being seen as more just virtuous firefighters and people. One of the characters in this is a cleric, and rather than praying to a god, he gets his powers from New York City and the people in it as a whole. And it is just all around kind of a cool campaign when you think about the fact that you're not used to seeing a modern setting imagined this way for Dungeons & Dragons. This season with the Intrepid heroes, we have Pete the Plug, played by Allie Beardsley, Sophia Bicicleta, played by Emily Axford, Ricky Matsui, played by Zach Oyama, Kingston Brown, played by Lou Wilson, Cugrash, played by Brian Murphy, and Misty Moore, played by Siobhan Thompson. One of the things that I love about the Unsleeping City is that all of these characters have a wide array of personalities and ages and reasons for doing things, and spectrum of good to evil, if you want to call it that. Whereas you come from Fantasy High and everybody is like 15, 16, 17 years old. In this, you have a wide array. You have Pete the Plug, played by Allie Beardsley, who is this young transgender man who is trying to get out of the drug game, so only find out that he had an important role to play in the magical world that he didn't even know about until just recently. And then you have Kingston Brown, a long-standing member of New York City, a nurse at one of the hospitals that is one of the central people in the magical foundation of New York City, drawing his power from the people of New York himself and being what is called the Vox Populi to Pete the Plug's Vox Phantasma, two pieces of this magical universe that together kind of control the magic and the people around them. But then on the other end of the spectrum, even though those two are wildly different, you have Cugrash, a rat person that was turned into a rat because he was a rat bastard in real life.
It's fine, fuck me, go, goddammit, sure, you stupid kid, go. You goddamn beautiful boy, you fucker, you absolute asshole.
And a witch that he screwed over turned him into a rat to represent his personality, and he lives in the sewers and helps the homeless people. Then you have Ricky Matsui, the paladin I was talking about, an incredibly good and sexy firefighter man that just wants to put the people before himself and is also a little bit simple-minded, but very, very wholesome.
If we're all admitting secrets, I wasn't always a firefighter.
Okay,
I was in high school, and then after high school, I became a firefighter.
That's not a secret, that's just a normal life.
You have Misty Moore, a fairy that is reliving the same life over and over again, pretending to be a new actress when she gets too old and reincarnating into a different skin, and is staying alive through the love that she is siphoning off of the people of New York that love her. Then you have Sophia Bicicleta, a supposed recent widower that came into special monk powers and is just trying to get over her late husband and kick some ass at the same time. Now, while each one of these characters have very important roles within this, the Vox Populi and Vox Phantasma, played by Lou and Allie, playing Kingsley and Pete, are easily the two most important characters within this because they represent the foundation of magic within New York City, and the Unsleeping City, which is like the upside down flipped version that only the magic people can see around New York. And then it said that it has been a long time since both a Vox Populi and a Vox Phantasma have been active in New York, and that is why all of these fucked up things are going on around them. Now, as far as the plot of the campaign, like I said with Fantasy High, I have a general idea. I watched very carefully. I loved this show. But it's kind of difficult sometimes to follow the plots of these Dungeons & Dragons things because the plots are all over because it's a lot of improv, and Brennan has kind of an idea of where he wants to go with it, but then the Intrepid heroes do something insane, so it goes another direction. But basically there's this big baddie, Robert Moses, that is trying to harness all of the power and magic within New York City for himself to make his dream, the American dream, come to life for him to rule over all the magical people and New York itself without being known as a magic person. He is using the vampires and Santa's list and siphoning the magic and trying to get the Vox Populi and Phantasma on his side. He is trying to take over Nod, the dream environment.
It makes no damn sense. Compels me, though.
It is very, very deep. Like I said, this season of Dimension 20 is a lot deeper than Fantasy High, but it is kind of a welcome change from the whimsy of Fantasy High. But that is not to say there isn't some moments of levity within this, because although this is very, very dark, very quickly I want to talk about the moments that each of these characters have in their past and in their present time that make it very dark. Kingston Brown is divorced because the woman that he fell in love with did not possess any magic, and after he introduced her to the magical environment, she wanted to go out and pursue her career and have his career pursued, but he was like, no, I have to stay here in New York. I'm the Vox Populi. I have to stay here. And she left him for that. Sophia Bicicleta, like I said, is a widower, but only to be found out that her husband was killed because he was part of this magical world and he was trying to be basically the chosen one.
Sweetie, I know this is hard and we don't have time. I'm not alive anymore.
That's really fucked up.
I'm sorry that I left. You know it wouldn't have been my choice. I'm so sorry.
Pete has a drug problem, and his family has not accepted his transition, and he is just struggling to find himself and know where he belongs in the world and get out of the drug trade and be accepted. Cugrash used to be an actual human man, but he was an absolutely horrible human man. Like I said, a rat, and he got turned into a rat by a witch and has to live out the rest of his days as a rat living in the sewers. He also screwed over his family, and his oldest son absolutely despises him. Misty Moore and Ricky Matsui honestly don't actually have that bad of backstories. They're kind of comedy relief, especially Ricky Matsui. But like I said, I want to talk about all those dark moments to kind of paint the picture that this is a much darker and deeper campaign, but that does not necessarily take away from the fact that there are moments of levity and fun in this that kind of bring your spirits back up despite that. A few of the bits that pop into my mind is the dancing baby of Cugrash. When he is in like public places, even though he's a rat, people that can't see magic just see a very hairy baby. So him and Sophia Bicicleta go around one night and do like a weird dancing baby routine to get free food at diners.
I try to start dancing like as a rat, like I'm a trick rat.
There's one scene with pigeons where everybody's trying to get dates to a pigeon wedding, and they're all trying to hit on pigeons, and there's thousands of pigeons in Kingston's house.
With Jessica Pigeon, and that was sort of weird for a while.
What was up with Jessica Pigeon?
Oh, you know, it's one of those things where they met in college and they sort of fell into a pattern, and then they got off and sort of changed as people, but it was kind of like good money after that.
Okay.
They had already sunk so much time into the relationship that as they became more and more incompatible, just didn't seem to make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And all of our friends, nobody wants to be that first person across the river to sort of mention like, hey, you guys fight more than you get along. So maybe you should guys think about packing it in. You're still in your early 20s, you could actually, find another partner, go out and date around. But it just seems to be that kind of thing where, routine and habit is sort of every day it gets harder against the weight of all the previous experiences to break out of a bad pattern. It's weird, you're codependent.
I stuff a Xanax in his mouth as I pass by.
There's an entire scene where Zach Oyama's character swims all the way to Staten Island to put out a fire. And I love everything with Zach Oyama's character. He's really fun. Like, this just good-natured, wholehearted, but kind of dim-witted, buff, sexy guy is always really fun. And on the topic of Staten Island, the ongoing joke that Staten Island fucking sucks and anybody would rather sleep on the street than in a 3-bedroom house in Staten Island is hilarious. It reminds me a lot of the forever ongoing joke of Zach Oyama's character asking everybody if he's their dad in Fantasy High.
Inside check as well.
Yeah, go for it.
That one.
That one? This guy, it's weird because you are a half-orc. This guy could be your dad.
But despite those moments of levity, every single one of them is bookended by this darkness that kind of takes over this campaign. And I'm gonna be honest, I honestly didn't really like this campaign as much as I liked Fantasy High. I'm not saying I didn't like it. I did. I enjoyed myself. I got through all of it, and it's like 34 hours of content. I never would have gotten through all that in a month if I didn't enjoy it. But it was almost too dark at times. And it was a little bit hard to follow the story, and maybe that's my own fault. But in the middle chunk there of all these episodes, it just kind of slowed down a lot, and it just felt like one pointless encounter and then role playing and then another pointless encounter until we got to the end of the campaign where we were back to the actual story that we cared about with Robert Moses and the American Dream and Nod and the Populi and Phantasma and so on and so forth. But the middle just kind of felt like it drug out a little bit longer than it should have. And while we're on the subject of funness, I did talk about how I like the modern setting. It's very original, it's very cool, but I don't think that it can support a campaign of this length because although it's really interesting to see New York City in a modern setting like this, as opposed to something like Fantasy High or A Crown of Candy, these wild things, it does kind of take away the fun aspect of it and the visual stimulus that you get from something like A Crown of Candy where it's so colorful. All that being said though, I did still have a blast 80% of the time while watching this, and it didn't deter me from watching anything else. I'm already on to A Crown of Candy, it's amazing, and I'm gonna check out the Unsleeping City Season 2, but in podcast form, the same way I did Fantasy High, because they did that one remotely. I really want to know everybody else's thoughts. Did you like this as much as Fantasy High? Did you have some of the misgivings with this that I did? Or did you think that, like I've heard some people say, this is the GOAT Dimension 20 campaign? If you did, I'd love to hear why. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other videos.